Good morning. Today we're playing the Pokemon TCG, and I'm going to be looking at the Doublade deck. This is really fun because this single pricer stage 1 Pokemon does a lot of damage. The weaponized swords attack says reveal any number of Honedge, Doublade, and Aegislash from your hand, and this attack does 60 damage for each card you've revealed this way. We play 4 copies of each of these cards. So you can imagine that if you have them all in your hand, you're doing massive amounts of damage, which is really fun in a format that heavily favors Mega Pokemon that give you 3 prizes whenever you can get them knocked out. You can find your evolution blades with Genesect. That's why we're playing 3 of this card in this deck. It's amazing because even if you play against a deck that plays Judge, for instance, and your hand size gets back to 4, if you have Genesect in play or 2 Genesects in play, you can still do a lot of damage getting back your Pokemon in this way. To set this deck up, we would love to start with Smoochum. Smoochum has a free attack, Delightful Kiss. Search your deck for up to 2 basic Psychic Energy cards, attach them to one of your benched Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. This means that from now on you will always have an attacker ready to go. Smoochum is a great starter. It has a free retreat cost as well, so if it doesn't get knocked out after the Delightful Kiss, you can just pivot it out of the active spot at any time. What we're hoping to do with this deck is start a Precious Trolley. You will get your Smoochum this way, you will get your basic sword, you will get a Genesect or 2, and if you need to pivot out of the active spot, you could also get your Latias EX with this Precious Trolley. To make the chances bigger of us starting with Precious Trolley, we play 1 copy of Team Rocket's Transceiver, which can get us Team Rocket's Petrel. Search your deck for any trainer card, reveal it and put it in your hand, then shuffle your deck. If we get Petrel on our first turn and we can set up like this, that would be the ideal situation. If not, there's plenty of ways to set up too. We got a Buddy-Buddy Poffin to take 2 basic Pokemon out of our deck with 70 HP or less. And then we also play 4 copies of Poké Pad to get our different Pokemon out of our deck. Since there's no Super Rod in this format after rotation, we are playing Sacred Ash, which lets us shuffle back up to 5 Pokemon from our discard pile into our deck, which means that it's gonna be easier for us to get our blades back and do massive amounts of damage again. We're playing some one-off Pokemon, and I'm still trying to decide what the strongest one-off Pokemon are for this deck, but as it's standing right now, we got 1 Shaymin. It prevents all damage done to your benched Pokemon that don't have a rule box by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. This means that Pokemon that also do damage to your bench now actually get stopped by this ability. A matchup where this is really powerful, for instance, is Marnie's Grimmsnarl EX. Marnie's Grimmsnarl EX has the Shadow Bullet attack for 180 damage on your active Pokemon. This attack also does 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. This damage will not go through if you have Shaymin in play. To counter some other possibilities, we also have Psyduck. Psyduck has the ability Damp. Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponent's, lose any ability that require the Pokemon using it to knock out itself. Psyduck is mostly gonna stop the Dusknoir line from putting more damage on your board and getting multiple prize cards in a turn. In all other matchups, you probably won't put down Psyduck, but it is nice to have it in there anyways. Then we got Alomomola with the ability Gentle Fin. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may put a basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less from your discard pile onto your bench. This is yet another way to get your swords back after they've been knocked out. We're playing some pretty funky supporters in this deck. One of them is Hassel. You can use this card only if any of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn. You can look at the top 8 cards of your deck and put 3 of them into your hand. Then shuffle the rest of the cards back into your deck. This can be absolutely powerful, and I think we've sort of been sleeping on this card up until now. The other really fun supporter that we're playing is Kofu. Kofu pairs really well with the Genesect that we're playing. Kofu says, put 2 cards from your hand on the bottom of your deck in any order. If you put 2 cards on the bottom of your deck this way, draw 4 cards. The fun thing is that you could potentially put your swords at the bottom of your deck, draw 4 cards, and then get those swords out of your deck again with the Genesect ability. But it's also a great way to refresh your hand if you just have a bunch of dead cards. We're playing a interesting variety of energy. One is the Ignition energy. It allows us to attack every single turn as long as it's attached to an evolution Pokemon, provides 3 energy. Your Doublade needs 2 energy to attack, so this is more than enough to get going. This card is especially strong if we missed our opportunity to set up with Smoochum. The other energy that we're playing 4 copies of is Mist Energy. Mist Energy will stop all effects of attacks used by your opponent's Pokemon down to the Pokemon this card is attached to. This means that you can protect your bench, for instance, from damage counters that your opponent places on your bench. Alakazam will not be able to do damage at all if this Mist Energy is attached to your Pokemon. Then we're also playing 4 copies of the normal Psychic Energy. We're playing this in combination with the Smoochum to set up as fast as possible. Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX is one of those cards that you prefer not to play, but it's really nice to have in your deck just in case. Bloodmoon attack does 240 damage, which is enough for some of the most played Pokemon EX in this format right now. So in combination with Boss, this could be a really good card to close out any game. I think that's enough for the deck overview. Let's go play some games. We would love to start with Smoochum in our active, so if we're winning this coin flip, we would really like to start second. We won the coin flip, so we can start second. This means that on our second turn, we should already be able to attack. It's a little bit unfortunate to start with a Psyduck ASC active, but it's not too bad with just a retreat cost of 1. We have Petrel in our hand to get the Precious Trolley out, and we could set up our board pretty well. Okay, let's see. So we're gonna try and use Petrel to find a Precious Trolley. Luckily it's not priced. So what I want to be doing is setting up 2 attackers. Unfortunately need 1 Latias to get the Psyduck out of the active spot, and then I can add 1 Genesect in there to get our other blades. I unfortunately already have 2 Psychic Energies in hand, so I'll attach 1 to one of the Honedges. I'll use the Genesect ability to get some more swords out. I'll just get 2 Doublades so I can evolve them on my next turn. I could use Poké Pad now, or I could wait a turn. I don't know if they play Judge, for instance. That would mean that my cards are gone and Poké Pad is in my discard, so I think it's better to just leave the Poké Pad as is. Retreat the Psyduck out of the active spot, put Smoochum in. I use Delightful Kiss to charge up the other Honedge on my board. This is actually almost an ideal start. If we didn't have that Psyduck there, we could have a second Genesect and get 4 cards out of our deck every single turn. Now we will play a little bit slower because of that Psyduck, but this should totally be fine. It would be really nice to get a Boss's Order soon, to already get rid of the Teal Mask Ogerpon and get 2 prize cards. We are playing 1 Pokégear to find some of our supporters. Our opponent tried to take away the energies, but they flipped tails, so that's not gonna happen. So Bulbasaur just used the attack blind down, which means I cannot retreat currently, which is kind of sad. It does slow us down a little bit, but I'm just gonna set up 2 attackers on my bench. I'll get some more blades out of my deck with Genesect, and then I'm just gonna pass the turn back to my opponent. So because I already have all of my energies in play right now, Delightful Kiss does nothing. I feel like grass decks have been really popular online, but I don't really see them winning any big tournaments. I wonder what they'll be doing once the first tournament post-rotation hits. This Bulbasaur binding us down is kind of annoying, not gonna lie. Okay, so this is the second turn. We're gonna be unable to retreat. I don't think I have an answer to this either. I don't think I play a switch or any other way to get my Pokemon out of the active. So there's not much that we can do. The things that I can do is just keep adding more blades to my hand and passing over the turn. Because as soon as they knock out this Smoochum, I will be able to attack. I wonder if they will try to charge up the Mega Genghis-Gun and hit with that. I don't think they need it for damage numbers. My blades are only 100 HP. Okay, they're gonna judge me down to 4 cards. So if they don't attack now, I'm forced to retreat my Smoochum instead of them knocking it out, which is the choice that they're gonna make. Oh, I got a Boss's Orders. So let's see, I can get 3 blades out of my deck right now, which is 4 times 6 is 240 damage, which is enough for the Teal Mask Ogerpon, for instance. And I will be getting another blade out of my deck with the Poké Pad. I will retreat my Smoochum, Boss's Orders, and then I will knock out their Teal Mask Ogerpon. It's a little bit silly that you have to click this all. But the reason that you have to show the amount of damage that you're doing is because you can also choose to do less damage to not knock out your opponent's Pokemon, which could be useful in some ways. So they will choose to put the Ivysaur back in play. I think they really want to attack with that guy. With my Poké Pad last turn, the better choice for me was probably to get my basic sword out of my deck. Because Genesect only gets me evolution Pokemon. Okay, so they were unable to knock me out. I can still knock out their Ivysaur. It's only going to get me 1 prize card though. I do feel like it could be worth it. I can play Kofu just to get a chance to get boss on the next turn if they still don't have a Venusaur in play. I will get rid of 2 swords, get 4 cards, and then get my swords back. So I do have a Pokégear on hand right now. I will not play it. I will save it for the next turn. I'm thinking if my Mist Energy does anything against this deck, but damage is not an effect and both of these do more damage based on a condition. So the Mist Energy is not really gonna help me in any way. I will be attacking. What I really love about this deck in comparison to a Goldengo, for instance, is that I only have to show that I have these cards on hand. I don't need to discard anything. So whereas you needed to discard energy with Goldengo to do more damage and then get it back with your superior energy retrieval, I actually don't pay anything. If I don't get judged, I can keep attacking for the same amount or more damage every single turn. This is interesting. They leave a 3 prizer on the board. I don't really need to do anything else. I'm just gonna attack and get myself 3 prize cards. You see how strong this deck is? You cannot even leave a beefy 300 HP Pokemon in the active because it will just get knocked out by how many swords I'm able to get out of my deck. Let's start another match. So what we're trying to do here is win the coin flip, so that we can choose to go second and start with our Smoochum in the active. So we would choose to not go first and try to make that happen. And because we chose to go second, we can use Petrel to get our Precious Trolley and set up our whole board. So I think my opponent is playing the Mega Lucario deck. I don't think I've tested this matchup yet against this deck, but since it's a Mega Pokemon, which does give out 3 prize cards when we manage to knock it out, it should be a pretty good matchup. Okay, so I got my Precious Trolley out of my deck. I will get a Latias and a Smoochum. I could potentially get 2 Genesect. I'm not really sure what the best way to go here is. I'm assuming 2 Genesects actually, because I need so many blades in my hand to knock out the Mega Lucario. I will retreat my Honedge and put Smoochum in the active. With Genesect, I will already fill up my hand with enough blades for the next turn. And so if I were my opponent right now and I saw this happen, I would get a little bit nervous. The one thing this deck is very susceptible to is retreat lock. A lot of the Pokemon that I play in this deck cannot attack. Okay, they did choose to put Mega Lucario in play already. They're immediately gonna Auro Jab and try to set up their bench. Getting rid of Smoochum is actually pretty good for me because it opens up another bench slot. So I put my attacker in my active. I'll make sure that it's ready. And then I always just check, what do I have right now? I already have 300 damage if I wanted to. And there's even more chances for me to get blades out of the deck. Let's see what's still in there. There's 1 more Doublade, which is already enough to knock this Pokemon out. And then I can play Brock Scouting to get 1 other Honedge out of my deck and put it on my bench already. Now this Pokemon will do 420 damage. I don't think my opponent expects this. I will actually put 1 of my cards onto my other Honedge. And I'll get 3 prize cards. So I think this was a mistake on my opponent's part because they did not have energy into their discard yet to make it worth putting the Mega Lucario in play. So that's definitely a mistake on their part that you will not see a lot when you go to tournaments. People will not make that mistake. And they're gonna do it again, which might mean that we're just winning this. Right now I do 360 damage, which is enough so I can just add my Ignition Energy, and I won this game. And that's how powerful this deck is. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next one. Bye!